Charlie, #1 state in terms of digital economic growth, #1 state in terms of R&D per capita. You have a lot of feats in front of you. How do you maintain that sort of focus and growth?
Well, I think the most important thing we need to do is to continue to build on what's been successful. If you're talking about life sciences, or you're talking about robotics or cybersecurity or so many other areas that are associated with industrial internet, we have a lot of the raw material and the intellectual capital that people are looking for. And that means continuing to invest on a public-private basis with a lot of the people who are creating jobs in this space, but also with a lot of the research institutions. We've put over $100 million of state money alongside federal funds, employer funds, and college and university funds in a whole series of advanced technology investments, which we think are going to continue to roll this whole train forward.
This is clearly what you can do from a state level. When you're looking from White House and country level, how much do you think the support is there for you at the moment to continue that sort of investment?
Well, I think one of the best examples of that is the recent discussion about what the National Institute of Health should be funded at. Big discussion about whether or not it should be cut came out of the budget process with a $2 billion increase. We have the largest share on a per capita and on a percent of GDP basis of NIH funding in the country, and we should, because a lot of the most important inquiry that's done and discovery that's done in all of those fields is done right up the street from here.
But it's only a temporary budget up until September. Is it a stay of execution?
Look, one of the things that I felt pretty good about when that whole conversation started was the fact that this is one thing Republicans and Democrats seem to agree on in Washington, which is that investments in research, investments in discovery and inquiry translate into solutions that become products and become cures and therapies. And I feel pretty good about that. We'll continue to work with our colleagues in other states and our delegation. But there are a lot of people in D.C. who get why these investments pay off.
You made a very demonstrative speech where, at the beginning of the year, really talking about how political dialogue perhaps isn't where it should be. Do you think political dialogue after the first 100 days is improving?
In Washington?
In Washington and indeed from a state level as well.
Well, I mean, my mother, God rest her soul, was a good Democrat. My father's a Republican. They canceled each other out for 60 years. And I grew up just believing that there's more than one point of view. And in public life especially, if you can't find ways to work with people you don't always agree with, you'll never get anywhere. And I take tremendous pride in the fact that GE, which just broke ground on their new corporate headquarters here today, said that one of the things they appreciated was the fact that Democrat mayor of Boston and the Republican governor seemed to get along, and that was something they didn't see in a lot of other places.
Talk to us about that relationship that you're building with private companies. You wooed over GE. There were some tax benefits in it for General Electric, but how much are you going out and starting these sort of joint ventures? You talked about public-private partnerships. How much is that at the core of what you're trying to achieve in the state?
Well, I mean, obviously a big part of what we try to do is make sure that the investments we make generate a return. Whether we're investing in transportation or higher education, or some of these joint initiatives around advanced manufacturing of photonics and the next generation of fibers and materials, which is being led by MIT. I mean, we're a player in those investments, but there are other people who are putting a lot more money into them than we are, including the federal government.
I mean, I spoke with, of course, the man you get along so well with that lured in General Electric, the mayor of Boston, and Marty was saying, look, I do think that we can reclaim our crown versus Silicon Valley. Do you think you can? Do you think it's a race?
I don't know if I would call it a race. I prefer to think of it as a competition. And I think we start with many of the most important ingredients. And the biggest one we start with is this incredible ecosystem of colleges and universities. We have great schools here too. Lots of STEM graduates, #1 in AP scores in the country, advanced placement scores. Also, the only state that's ever finished first on the National Education Assessment Exam for high schoolers in English and math, and we've done it 6 years in a row. I do believe that one of the things that really separates us from many others is the quality of our school systems and the quality of our education infrastructure generally.
Quick last question. #1 priority, therefore, for the rest of 2017 from you at a state level?
Well, the thing I always hear about is for young people and young families, we need more housing. We're making a big investment in what I would call workforce housing and housing people who work can afford. We're also going to continue to make big investments in our transportation systems. One of the great things, we have one of the great problems, which is everybody works around here. So there's a lot of traffic in the morning and a lot of traffic in the afternoon. We need to do a better job of making sure that we can deliver transportation solutions. And we are going to continue to invest in the things that have made us successful, hopefully alongside a lot of those colleagues we have in the public and not-for-profit and private sectors that have been so good at this so far.